retainer changed out, which is a big important thing. You want to keep your teeth, if you're lucky enough to be able to keep your teeth in check, you can put yourself in the capable hands of someone like Dr. Di Giovanni or Dr. Green for cleaning. So you can have your orthodontics done by one doctor and then your teeth fixed, you know, if you got cavities or whatever, and cleaned to keep them in shape, right? Anyway, what I wanted to talk about today, and I'll do a bunch of other shout outs as well to fun channels and stuff like that, that are always, you know, inspiring. And part of the reason why I'm able to make the videos that I make these days is because I was inspired by so many of these amazing YouTubers, and therefore because of them I was then able to come up with ideas and learn about things that then allowed me to make good decisions about my YouTubing, right? Anyway, so there's like, you know, a bunch of the ones that I like so much are Paul McWhorter is in Top Tech Boy, then you've got Drone Camps, you've got Caroline Dunn, you've got Lamar Wilson. There's a lot of really good ones. Then there's, for RC stuff, you've got the RC Sailors, you've got Brian Phillips, you've got Captain Drone, you've got Flying Ryan, and a whole bunch of others that you guys can check. I made a whole list for you guys to take a look at. These are just the ones that are just coming out off the top of my head right now. But so many of these amazing channels have really helped me learn skills, learn skills. There's also Eli the Computer Guy. There's I found his channel like a while back, and the reason why I found his channel was because I was trying to figure out the differences between certain cables. I didn't understand what one type of cable was going to do and one type of internet was going to do, and so I was just searching through there. And also I wanted to learn about the difference between Arduinos and Raspberry Pis at the time, and I had no idea. I hadn't even bought one yet, and I was just trying to learn. And I came across his channel, and basically as well, like, I was into the idea of creating things with a Raspberry Pi or whatever. I wanted to buy the latest Google technology because even back then I was a big fan of Google technology, virtual reality, and all that stuff. So I found all these channels. Caroline Dunn, for instance, really breaks down how to create a Google voice kits and a vision kit very well. So I used some of her stuff because it was really good. Anyway, so this is why I like to do lots of shout outs for the channels that have, made an impact on my life. And another one that came up was, oh boy, I lost it again. Motion RC. There's this guy, James. Just coming up with, and then there's the CNET. CNET is also another good source of information. But then, I used to watch Top Gear, so I learn about cars and stuff like that. There's a guy with Kevin Talbot. He does some crazy stunts with RC cars and stuff. So there's so many amazing. Tom Lee also is pretty good, and you got the RC Kiwis. Anyway, there are lots of different channels that have amazing camera crews too. And again, when in these things, it's really hard with my brain to remember stuff, but when they come up, I'll tell you guys. But anyway, we're talking about how can we make the world a better place, right? And I'm all about product design and all that stuff. And part of the reason for that is that my dad was in big pharma, creating products and creating branches for companies pretty much his entire life. So I watched him closely, and sometimes when I was a little bit older, I got to work with him at his company, and he would take me on trips where we would experience all kinds of situations about business and corporate America, and the art of the deal, right? The art of the deal. And the art of the deal, and this has nothing to do with Donald Trump's Art of the Deal book. I don't think that it is any way related, but the art of the deal is to have some kind of leverage, and you have to have, first of all, a decent proposition, right? You have to have a product that works, that is well thought out, and you have to have good communication skills so that you can express, or at least show the people that you're trying to sell it to, that it is valuable. But most important of all, you have to have leverage, some kind of leverage, whether it is the fact that you have a huge capital in the bank, or did you have the right people who are willing to sponsor your idea, or whatever it is, so that when you go into one of these meetings, the people that show up, first of all, I'm going to give you the time of day, because a lot of times they don't. You just show up, and they send in the B or the C or the D team, right, to see you, because they're not really interested in what you're doing. They're just pretending to be nice, and then they don't really care about your product, or financing it, or buying it from you, or taking it from you so that then they can sell it and you get royalties, that kind of thing. So so my dad was super successful, right? When he was working for corporate America, he was a suit, he was a top executive of this company and that company, and so on and so forth. And when he went to meetings, when he was working for those companies, he had leverage, he had control over the situation, and he had a big name title sitting right behind him, right? Saying, I'm working for Pfizer, or I'm working for this, whatever it was back then. And when he showed up at those meetings, people would start off by, putting their best foot forward. So they would bring in the A team who actually cared, and then he could make deals about licensing or whatever it was that he did for the so many different products that he ended up selling for those companies. But here's the thing, right? What happens when my dad no longer wanted to work for corporate America for whatever reasons? Essentially, one of them was that he had cancer, and once those companies know that you have cancer, you're pretty much dead to the company. So once they knew he had cancer, I think that there was even a possibility that he might, survive. Became a cancer survivor, which is what they establish you become when you no longer have any cancerous cells within you, and then you go a few years without taking the interferon or whatever. But anyway, you're never really fully recovered from cancer. It's one of those things. If you're susceptible to getting a cancer, eventually you could get a different one. But anyway, he was, in that regard, he was lucky. He was completely cancer-free, and he survived cancer. But anyway, once the American company thought that he was going to die, they started taking away all his privileges of being a worker at the company, and so they were trying to slowly phase him out. And because he was one of those people who just really loved his job, he just wanted things to stay, in a very conservative way. He just wanted things to stay the way they were. And because they were constantly changing, he just couldn't deal with that. So he ended up quitting and ended up working at his own company. He established his own company and decided, well, now I'm going to do what I was not able to do with the other companies, which is create products that are like, affordable, and that could actually save people from real diseases such as anemia. He was working with stents, so those are basically things that you can stick into your main arteries to avoid you from like getting strokes and stuff like that. Sometimes you'll have to do that through cardiac surgery or whatever, to be able to implant those things into your system. But anyway, long story short is the second he was no longer backed by not popular demand, but big name company title anymore. Suddenly, when he went to the table with these people, with these other companies that obviously had all the leverage, well, all of a sudden it wasn't so easy to make all these deals, right? He'd done theater with people as well known as Leo Gullotta, and obviously most people won't know who that is because that's an Italian guy, but he was with the top guns back then of comedy and stuff like that. And so when he went into these meetings and stuff, although he had perfectly planned out products, he'd done all the in vitro and in vivo, all those tests that you're supposed to do in order to make sure that the products that you're gonna put into people, had FDA approval and all that stuff. But because he didn't have the backing of those top company names, people didn't take him seriously, and so eventually his company went to, which is what I wanted to talk about is, are we creating a world at this point where we're setting the conditions for is that why the good people who are trying to, I'm not saying save the world, because you can't really save the world, but at the very least are trying to improve the human condition in some way. Like, for instance, as I said before, he wanted to help like people with heart failure, and he wanted to help people with anemia and stuff like that. But were the conditions in which he found himself favorable for him to be able to even make a dent in saving the world or changing the world, making the world a better place, right? And you can come up with your own determinations on what you think is the case. But in my personal opinion, and again, my opinion doesn't matter for much because my brain is about this small. But anyway, after like years and years of education and all that good stuff, I still feel like my brain is this small. And although I know I have ideas and stuff and on how to change the world, I just feel like that maybe there are things that just can't be changed simply because people don't want them to. And that's something that you'll notice also in the YouTube or other social media platform algorithms. It is that the algorithm is mean, right? It isn't that the algorithm is trying to ruin things. It is that the algorithm is designed for capitalist business purposes. And is that wrong? No, it's actually supposed to work that way. Otherwise, companies go out of business, right? If you cannot put the right content in front of the eyeballs of the people who want to see a certain amount of content, then the platform suffers from that, and eventually it dies. So you need that to happen. But here's the thing. If enough people are hateful, right? If enough people are hateful and always clicking on all the hateful content, the algorithm will obviously want to promote what people are clicking on. And so the question you need to ask yourself is, are we as people creating the society that we want by just clicking on stuff that is actually detrimental to our mental health, detrimental to our community, and so on and so forth? And I have a feeling, and I have a strong feeling, that is exactly what we're doing. And again, like I'm an empath, so I'm very good in walking a country mile in someone else's shoes. But there are some people where I really struggle to rationalize at that point why they love self-loathing and what is it called? Masochism, basically. Masochism is some people really enjoy hurting themselves so much, and I just don't understand why people do that, because in hurting themselves, they're actually hurting everyone else. So by being super hateful against other people, by obviously constantly going onto content that is hateful, because hoo hoo ha ha, oh, I heard somebody use cuss words and blah blah blah, or ha ha, somebody is doing something extremely controversial and shocking, and it is so wrong that I just can't stop watching it, that kind of stuff. And then you're wondering why, if those videos are getting millions and millions of views, then the content that is educational, kid-friendly, and that is actually promoting a positive world gets completely forgotten, left behind, and so on and so forth. So if you, this is just what I feel. You might not feel that this is a problem or not, but maybe try that. Maybe try that for a few weeks. Maybe stop watching all the hateful and got you kind of stuff. Like the worst is the political stuff. The political stuff, and again, unfortunately, it has been instigated a lot by Donald Trump, because his strategy was to literally anger half of the population so that the other half of the population would care about him. But then you wonder why things went so poorly. But anyway, when things like that happen, then it just basically creates this whole popularity of videos, and then it's one gotcha moment after another. So one political party makes a gotcha video about the other political party, and the other political party does a gotcha video about the other one, and everyone's clicking on videos because they're absolutely outraged. And obviously that doesn't do a whole lot for mental health, which is why at one point, like after the storming of the Capitol, I was like, okay, well, I'm done, and I switched off, completely from all. I unsubscribed for the sole purpose of aggravating other people, and then after I did that, then I felt better, and so I stayed away from Facebook, Instagram, and all those things for about what felt like maybe 2 years, and that's good. And I've never looked back. And so now when I do eventually, because some of my friends and some of my family still use Facebook and all like that stuff, and so I still occasionally will go on there just to talk to them, but then I don't respond. I'm no longer on the political stuff, so I no longer go to any of the forums on Facebook. I no longer go to any of the things. The only thing that I use is for instance, the Facebook Messenger. That's what I use. I go on there and I will talk to family and friends, but I don't go onto the main things, and I'm not basically looking at any of the political stuff, because that's just not good for my mental health, and so I just completely cut it off. It's the famous, cut the fat is what they say in company culture or whatever. And so I feel a whole lot better now, and this 2022 has actually started off being a really fantastic year with the YouTube channel. Like, I really poured my heart and soul into building a community and building videos for an awesome community. And I think that now that we've finally achieved the goal of 1,000 subscribers, things are just really looking up, just overall across the platforms. So I try my best to create content so that it is in a format that everybody can enjoy on multiple platforms. And so it seems to be working okay at this point. But again, The only times that I ever talk about politics is in a completely like non-partisan way, and so basically the point is I will make fun, you know, occasionally I'll make jokes about both sides of the argument and how, you know, flawed whatever thinking is from one or the other side, to put it into context as best as I can to help people. But most importantly, I just don't want to get caught up ever again in the trumpets against the anti-trumpets thing. I'm hoping that thing dies and goes away permanently, because if it comes back, that could be really the start of World War III. Because, you know, people have had it up to here with all this trumpets and anti-trumpet stuff, and if we bring it back, it's just not going to be good for the mental health of you know, the world, because this isn't, at this point, it's not even an American problem anymore. I think people all over the world got caught into this this disaster, and so it is not good. It is not good. Instead, people need to find ways to forget about their differences and find ways to communicate. And I think actually I want to say this, that recently YouTube and some of the other platforms have been better about allowing people to communicate, just have conversations, just have simple conversations, so long as you're not using cuss words, so long as you're not being a complete donkey poop. I think that so long as you're not a complete donkey poop, that it seems that these days the social media platforms have been better about allowing people to discuss topics without, you know, the second things get, you know, escalate with cuss words and things, I think they go back to like banning, shadow banning things. But so far, from what I've seen, forums and stuff, at least, you know, I don't look into the politics stuff much anymore, but I do occasionally look at video games and other things like that. Sometimes I'll get into debates with people on that kind of stuff. And as far as I've seen, unless you got, you know, the troll that's showing up, like there was one kid obviously looking for clickbait, so he was trying to aggravate people on purpose so people would go check out his channel. It was pretty obvious. And he didn't really need to do that because he had like 3,000 subscribers already. I mean, that's just crazy. Anyway, sadly, I couldn't. I usually, you know, if I find things like that happen, I will still subscribe to that person's channel and let them know, hey, dude, you really don't need to do this. You don't need to do this. I'll subscribe to your channel, but just stop doing the hatred stuff. Stop the trolling and stuff, because it actually works against you in the long run. So yeah, that's really not the best way to get attention online. And so basically, unfortunately, I couldn't do that because his entire channel is about sort of like hip-hop-ish music, but it's just basically so controversial and so full of cuss words that I was just like, no, I'm sorry, I'm just not interested. And then, you know, and then he was cussing the whole time on the forums of other people, so I was like, nah, sorry. You can go back and you can you know, work on your communication skills, and maybe we'll talk, and then, you know, maybe you can make some content that is a little bit devoid of possible, you know, racist stuff. And you know, first of all, you know, I just don't really like the racist stuff that keeps being put everywhere. But if your content's gonna be racist and constantly I mean, the occasional cuss word, I mean, I understand, we're human, it can come out, but if the whole purpose of the song that you're creating is just like every 2 words there's a cuss word, then, you know, that's gonna turn me off. I just don't want to hear that stuff. So anyway, so those are my thoughts about like many things that people can do to work together, right? You know, you can't really save the world. You can't even like help people in your own family most of the time if they're stubborn about an idea or whatever. You can't really change people, but what you can do is help create the conditions that could make a population thrive or the world thrive. And we can do that by, for instance, not being so hateful all the time. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts, which I'll never get to see because comments don't really show up. But those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, guys.